Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Bold predictions for this Clemson program heading into 2024. One of my favorite episodes to do during the offseason where, we kind of all get that opportunity to call our shot heading into 2024. I know every single Clemson fan that is listening has some sort of bold prediction, some sort of player that you think is going to break out. This is our opportunity to call our shots heading into 2024. Would love to hear from you guys in the comment section on some of your bold predictions you have for this Clemson program. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. The amount of support from the Clemson fans, it's been absolutely amazing. Appreciate you guys. And without further ado, let's get into this one. I want to start with my first bold prediction, the one that I might feel the best about, and that is running back Phil Maffa leading the ACC in rushing. And this kind of comes down to two different things. One, I love Phil Maffa. I think he's one of the more underrated running backs, not only in the ACC, but in the country. And, it kind of makes sense. I think Will Shipley got a lot of attention from the Clemson media, from a lot of the national media members as well. And not a shot at Will Shipley. I was a massive fan of Will Shipley during his Clemson career. You look at Phil Maffa, he was the better running back for this Clemson offense in the 2023 season, and he's only going to get more opportunity heading into 2024. You take a look at some of the numbers. Phil Maffa had more yards per carry than Will Shipley, had more yards per carry after contact than Will Shipley. Here's a kicker. Phil Maffa had more 15-yard carries than Will Shipley as well in the 2024 season. Phil Maffa is going to have many more opportunities than he did in the 2023 season. I think you are looking at a true bell cow running back for this Clemson offense, and a guy that's only going to get better with more opportunities. You look at Phil Maffa and how he wants to run the football, how physically imposing he is as a ball carrier. Going back and, looking at some of the numbers, Phil Maffa had 16 plus carries in the last 5 regular season games. There was not a game that Phil Maffa went for less than 80 rushing yards during those last 5 games, including one where he went for over 130 yards against a very good Notre Dame front seven. As we saw Phil Maffa get more opportunities, he only got better. And you look at Phil Maffa, he's one of those guys that you want to give 20 to 25 carries per game to, because he's that physically imposing running back that has the ability to wear down defenses. He is not a running back that you want to tackle 20 to 25 plus times per game. And you look at Dabo Swinney, I think that's how he's going to use Phil Maffa. And I think secondly, not only am I a massive fan of Phil Maffa, he is going to be, I think by far, the bell cow in this Clemson running back room. I think he's certainly capable of it. You look at a lot of other really good running backs in the ACC, guys like Amarian Hampton at UNC, Damian Martinez at Miami. I think they're going to split a lot more carries in their backfields. I look at Phil Maffa and say if he stays healthy for 12 games, 13 games in this Clemson 2024 season, he is going to have a phenomenal season and be extremely productive for this Clemson offense. And Clemson's going to try to stay on schedule a little bit more than they did in the 2023 year. A lot of 3rd and longs, a lot of kind of unsuccessful 1st and 2nd down plays. Phil Maffa is one of those running backs that it's going to be 2nd and 6. It's going to be 3rd and 3 because of how physical, how downhill he runs with the football. Dabo Swinney is going to use Phil Maffa to really give K. Klubnik some sort of running game that you can rely on in the 2024 season. And I think Phil Maffa is certainly up for the task. Give me Phil Maffa as the leading rusher in the ACC. I feel really good about that one. Number 2, I think 2 wide receivers go for 600 plus yards in the 2024 season, which is definitely a bold prediction considering Clemson didn't have one wide receiver that went for 600 plus yards in the 2023 season. And that kind of largely was one of the flaws that we saw in this Clemson offense. Yes, K. Klubnik did not play as good as many expected him to play. The wide receiver play wasn't where it needed to be either. I mean, there wasn't exactly wide receivers making plays for the quarterback, working vertically down the field. And, one of the reasons why I've been so vocal that I think this Clemson offense takes a step in the right direction, I think the talent, the personnel in the pass catcher room, it's certainly there. And I think I'm going to change my prediction from just wide receivers. I'm going to change it to pass catchers so we can include Jake Bringenstool in this conversation. I look at this Clemson offense and say, I don't know if there's going to be an 1,000-yard catcher in this pass catcher room. I think guys are certainly capable of it, but I think this is a wide receiver room that's constructed to, kind of spread the wealth around. You got a lot of guys that can do a lot of different things. The candidates for 600 plus yards in this Clemson offense receiving in 2024, I'd probably start with guys like Tyler Brown and Antonio Williams. You get a healthy Antonio Williams, I think we all feel pretty comfortable he's going for 600 plus yards. We saw Tyler Brown almost do that as a true freshman. Then you sprinkle in Adam Randall. You sprinkle in two true freshman wide receivers in Brian Wesco and TJ Moore, and then Jake Bringenstool. I mean, there's maybe 5 or 6 candidates that have the capability to go over 600 yards if they stay healthy. This Clemson passing attack, kind of finds its rhythm that it just didn't have in the 2023 season. I think that certainly this wide receiver room, this pass catcher room, if you will, could certainly take a step in the right direction. I think that's a massive storyline for this Clemson offense that needs to work on hitting explosive plays in the passing attack. And to kind of culminate my opinions on this Clemson offense, my third bold prediction is a top 60 offense for Clemson in 2024. Now, why I'm going top 60, I mean, you look back at 2023 in yards per play, they were 103rd in the country, averaging only 5.9 yards per play. I think that takes a massive step in the right direction. We've talked about a couple of different reasons why. I think it starts with Cade Klubnik, who, again, is only going into year 2 as the starting quarterback for Clemson. You go back 12 months ago, this was a new offensive coordinator with an extremely young pass catcher room that was not healthy during last offseason. There's a lot of tailwinds that are pushing this Clemson offense in the right direction. Cade Klubnik, Garrett Riley getting a little bit more on the same page, kind of figuring out what works for both the offensive play caller and the quarterback. That's only going to get better going into year 2. We know Garrett Riley's a good offensive coordinator. I think they're just going to get a little bit more on the same page. You look at the pass catchers, finally healthy going into fall camp, which Dabo Swinney said it. That's extremely rare. I mean, they haven't really had that much health on the offensive side of the football the last couple of off seasons, which I think has led to not really reaching their expectations that we've had for this Clemson offense. So I think the health of the pass catcher room is certainly there. And then the offensive line, you look at the starting 5, maybe 6, 7 offensive linemen, you feel pretty good about them. And I think last year they were just rotating, mixing and matching because of the injuries. They never really seem to have the same 5 starting offensive linemen. If you get that in the 2024 season, this offensive line has the capability, it has the personnel to be one of the better offensive lines that we see in the ACC. So I think the offensive line has a chance to get better. The quarterback and play calling going to get better. And you have more healthy pass catchers. I mean, there are just so many different reasons that this Clemson offense takes a step in the right direction. Now, how big that step is, I think, has a lot to do with Clemson winning an ACC title, being a dangerous team in the college football playoffs. So we'll see how big that step is. But I think it's hard to believe this Clemson offense doesn't take some sort of a step in the right direction heading into 2024. Going to the defensive side of the football, my first bold prediction, this Clemson defense, top 5 in the country. And I've been extremely vocal. I think it is, right? You look at the front 7 and say, how many front 7s across the country can we find better than Clemson? I think you have an elite linebacker room headlined by Barrett Carter. I think Wade Woodaz is a breakout kid. Sammy Brown is a true freshman, certainly going to play as well. Really good linebacker room behind a defensive line that is, I think, kind of just being slept on. And yeah, you lose some guys on paper on the inside of the defensive line, guys like Tyler Davis and Ruocco. I look at Page. I look at Capehart. I look at Trey Williams. I look at, it's going to be redshirt freshman Vic Burley, guy that we didn't get to see as a freshman, but a guy that we're all really excited about. I think the inside of the defensive line is actually going to be a strong suit for this Clemson program. Then you look at TJ Parker, Peter Woods on the outside and say, not many better edge rusher rooms in the country than what Peter Woods and TJ Parker are. You sprinkle in some development from guys like AJ Hoffler or Jaheim Lawson. I look at the Clemson front 7 and say, that's going to be one of the better units in the country. Then you look at the back end and say, although they are a little bit young, this was a very good Clemson secondary last year. Top 5 in completion percentage, top 5 in yards per pass given up. Avian Terrell, I think we all feel is going to be kind of an all-conference kind of guy. You got Shelton Lewis, Khalil Barnes probably manning down that nickel spot. You feel really good about both of them. On the other side, Jaden Lucas, if he stays healthy, very, very good football player. The one question we might have is how good are the safeties for this Clemson defense? But you have some guys that have played a lot. RJ Mickens has been within this program. You kind of feel good about the floor, about this safety room being pretty dang solid for Clemson in the 2024 year. So I start going through this Clemson defense and say, hey, we're checking a lot of boxes at a lot of different spots with some really elite top-end talent. I look at this Clemson defense and say top 5 in the country in 2024. Number 5, I'm going to go with 3 first-team All-ACC defenders for this Clemson program. There's probably 10 to 12 candidates. I think you start on the defensive line. TJ Parker, Peter Woods, a plethora of guys on the inside all have the capability of being first-team All-ACC guys. I think Barrett Carter is probably a lock to be a first-team All-ACC defender. You look at potentially true freshman Sammy Brown. You look at Wade Woodez, and then you look at the secondary and say, Avian Terrell, a guy that a lot of casual ACC fans probably couldn't name you. Clemson fans are sitting there and saying, hey, Avian Terrell is going to be one of the better cornerback we see in this conference in the 2024 year. That's kind of what makes this Clemson defense so special. You have that top-end talent, but you're also just really, really deep. You don't really have many holes in this Clemson defense. That's why I think they're going to be a top 5 defense in the country. I think they have multiple guys that are NFL caliber dudes that can be first-team All-ACC defenders. We feel really good about this Clemson defense. I think the big question, and I don't think I'm stating anything that's not obvious in terms of how dangerous this Clemson team can be, is how good can the offense be? This Clemson team is going to win a lot of football games, be very competitive nationally because of how good this defense is. The question is, how good can the offense be in 2024? And if they take a massive step, you're looking at one of the most dangerous teams we see in college football. Fire me up for this Clemson team. I think a team that just not getting talked enough about in the ACC because of what Florida State and Miami have done in the transfer portal. And you guys know I'm big fans of Miami and Florida State heading into 2024, but this Clemson team is certainly a team that should be talked about in terms of ACC championship, college football playoff aspirations. We'll cut it there. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.